Hi Kelsey, and let's break down your animation. So your splash is really cool and really nice. So let's go over to it. And let's go over the splash first, and then the secondary splash, and then the ripples. I think overall it looks pretty good. It has pretty nice breakup, has pretty nice deceleration, acceleration, deceleration. So the things that we can push here are mostly first design, and secondary, some of the slowdowns, accelerations, or curves. So the things that I want to continue. So the splash is basically like a lot of these bouncing balls that slow down. So we start faster, usually, then they slow down, accelerate when they fall, and so on. And we have different curves, different bouncing balls with different delays throughout the entirety of the splash. So the thing that works really well so far is overall form change. The things that we can push is mostly some of the curves and some of the forms going and suddenly stopping. So this thing, you see it goes, it accelerates, it starts falling down, but then you see we accelerate, we start accelerating to fall down, and then immediately we stop, go back, then stop and go forward at the top, and then everything starts accelerating down. So the thing that doesn't work here is a sudden acceleration, then back up, then acceleration in the opposite direction. So what we can do here is we can simplify it. We can have a slowdown here, but still move it forward. We can have something like this here, and then let it fall down. We can have something like this, where it starts being erased by this curve, and some parts start going back, and we lose particles there, and something started then accelerating. But we need to try to avoid that sudden huge fast accelerations and immediately stopping the motion entirely. I think that part is what doesn't work all that well. And kind of the same thing happens here. So we start accelerating down, we start defining this form, this shape, and then we immediately back up and go here. So we either don't define it or we don't back up. Another thing that we can try is here. So it goes one, slows down, accelerates, slows down, accelerates kind of. So maybe we can leave a particle here or do something about this part so it doesn't go all over the place. For this part, you see it slows down. Then it kind of goes here, then it slows down again, then it accelerates again. So I think we can just clarify the curve. Maybe it goes 1, 2, 3, slow down. And it's over here. Then it goes 4, really slow. And then 5, it starts falling down. 6, it starts falling down here. And 7, it's falling down there for this particle. Here, I would try to keep this one connected so that everything doesn't go down at the same time. You see, we had this here, we had this here. And then we have all these three very close to each other in terms of the level, and they all break up at the same time. Next. 1, 2, 3, this is fine. Maybe we can leave something here. I would see. Here, I think we can clarify the curve and the fall down. So we go, it starts falling down, but then it decelerates again, then it starts falling down, then it goes here. You see the curve becomes very flat, it becomes a straight line, and it goes completely in a straight line. And every other particle also goes completely straight. So I think we can bring back some of the curves in some of them. So it's not completely straight, but it has a slight curve, at least for some of them. And the second thing, I would clarify the slowdown. So it doesn't have this, okay, we're going to fall down. Oh no, we're not. So maybe we can do, okay, so we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or whatever. So clarifying the slowdown, clarifying the curve. And for this one, it's at the top, it has more energy. You see, it goes all the way here, but then it suddenly goes straight. And then it goes up again. Then it goes down. So we can, again, just clarify the curve. And here it's contact already. Or we can do it like this. So it has acceleration. So let's look here. So we go. And you see we don't have a slowdown. Then suddenly we slow down. But then we accelerate. Forward, not down. And then there is not much acceleration. So what we can do here is generally keep it similar, but what we can do is give it a more noticeable slowdown at the highest point, especially since it's going in perspective, and then rotate it when it's going. So it's here, it's here, it's here, it's here. Then it starts going down in perspective again. So we need to change its form a bit and make sure that it points in the direction that it's going. So see, it goes down, but it is horizontal. The particle is like this, but it's going like this. Here, I think it's going pretty good. I would just make sure that the direction is clear. See, it goes to the left, then immediately to the right, then to the left again. So maybe we can decide on one. Maybe it goes here, and then it will fall much more naturally. And the same thing with these kind of curves. So we can just clarify them. You see, we go like this, pretty far to the left, pretty far to the left. Oh, and then suddenly we go completely dead, like center, dead, not center, dead straight. So we can either choose to make a curve more sharp, or we can soften the later part. Now for the design, I think it's going pretty well. It has a pretty cool, nice, stylized design. I would push it in some places. For this one, for the contact, I think the thing that you can push here is just simplify. And what can we simplify? We can simplify this area of contact. And I don't know what this line is, because it doesn't make sense when you think about the surface. So the ball displaces the water near it. So the water goes like this. But this is way too straight and way too far, and doesn't make as much sense. This is what kind of happens. So here I would just, okay, 1, maybe something like this, something different. Here, it's pretty nice. If we are going for soft look with all the other particles, I would remove that sharp edge and do it more like this. Another thing, in terms of general composition. So if we look here, I think what we can push is the symmetry and the repetition of the gesture. What do I mean? You see this part? You see this part? You see the gesture is almost exactly the same. So the simplest way to think about the splash is think about it in terms of like this cool curve. So we can draw a cool curve and we can make a cool splash out of this cool curve. And what are we looking for in these cool curves? Well, we're looking for an interesting way of contrasting them so that they don't repeat each other, so that they create a nice, interesting design that serves whatever feeling, style, or energy you want to get. So we can imagine a lot of these different simple variations of the splash. And if this is good, then the splash will already be quite successful in terms of design, because what makes it interesting is this foundational aspect. And then on top of this composition, we're adding cool shapes, cool transitions, and smaller stuff that is also important. What is another thing we're looking for here? We don't want to have the scenes equal. So we don't want to have equal spaces of the top part, of the bottom part, and we don't want all the lines to be parallel to each other. So that's the scenes that we want to avoid, because it will create a pretty even and a bit more boring design. And we can experiment a lot with this, because that's a very fast way to go about it. So I can do this kind of splash. I can look at the references and get inspired and do other cool kind of splashes. Maybe I'll look at the reference and then go, okay, I like the structure in this real splash and it has this kind of thing. And I see only this part of the splash, but this part is kind of behind it. So I have this kind of cool splash where we get more depth because the front is over the back side, so they're overlapping and thus creating a bit more depth and interaction. Maybe we can try and look at some cool animated stylized splashes and also get some cool ideas of how the splashes can be, how they can work. Maybe we have this kind of cool, simple curve. I'm looking at avatar and splashes. So this kind of cool curve, this kind of cool curve, and then the backside is only visible here. It's kind of this pointy bit here and has this kind of structure. Again, it works because we have the simplicity and this cool idea of contrast, small shape, big shape, very small shape, and so on. So we can look at any splash, look at anything, and analyze a simple underlying gesture and how it transforms and how we can learn from it and use it in our own animation. Doesn't take much. And this simple way already gives us so many ideas. So that's the things that I would definitely push here. And here it gets a bit better. We have less repetition because the scatters started to become different, which is great. What we can avoid here is dividing and breaking the splash right in the middle. So you see this? It's dividing the splash right in the middle, and the negative spaces on both sides are quite similar. So we can push the difference in these, and we can push this breakup that happens in the middle, so it doesn't happen as much in the center. See, this also breaks up very close to the middle, and this thing. So we kind of lose a bit of that contrast because there isn't much difference between these scenes. Okay, this is pretty good. So here we can push this. You see, everything is on this one part. So maybe something can be higher, and something can be lower, something can be in the middle. And we can try to space them less equally, so the distances between these parts aren't the same. So maybe this is using this downwards momentum, we're pushing it here, so this gap becomes more contrasting. So that's the main thing about the splash. I think the massive and the particles variations is pretty decent. I would maybe try to match the form here a bit more because it gets a bit disconnected. I would probably slow this down at the top for 1 or 2 more frames, so everything is not falling down at the same time. Just delay it for a frame. And we can push some of the designs of the particles. I tried to, I don't know, first, the circles on the water. So the circles on the water are pretty tricky, but they're also pretty simple. So the thing to remember here is that they follow the same perspective and the same center line, the same source of the splash, and they're slower in the back than they are in the front due to perspective. So if we look at them, the things that we can notice, so it's basically something like the same center. Okay. And let's do 1 or 2 smaller. And then look what happens at the end. Okay, so we have this wonderful guy. Have this wonderful animation. So let's see. Okay, we go. And you see, we were on this perspective, on this grid, and then your ellipses, they start becoming wider. And once they become wider, what happens is it implies that the surface change position. So we're looking at the surface like this. Now we're looking at the surface like this. And then at the end, you see it becomes off-center. It's diagonal, which implies a surface like this, and way more looking from the top than from the side. So we'll lose the sense of perspective. So instead of this oval, it has to be something more like this if we want it to be on the same surface that it was before. You see, this grounds it around this splash, and this makes it feel like it's falling. And aside from that, I try to just have fun and animate something. Again, this is not per se correction. It's just a reimagining of the splash, kind of how I would probably approach it with more of my style. And I try to group particles. I try to make sure that the curves are a bit different and curvy. I try to have momentum in the front so that we have this nice slowdown, acceleration on the way down, and the fall. And I would probably push it even more. So maybe here we would have more of a slowdown, and then it falls. And here, we go, and we accelerate down. And again, here, we can even make the slowdown even more apparent here. So it slows down and then it accelerates. And then for each part, I try to define a curve it follows. So for this particle, it would be this kind of curve. And we can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For this particle, it's this kind of curve. And here I fucked it up. It should be over here to put it in perspective. It happens. And so on. So each particle has its own path. So for this scene, it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then 8. So this kind of curve. And we can imagine it as the curves radiating from the center of the splash. So it will be, okay, here, maybe like this. Maybe like this because it's closer to the camera. Like this. Something like this, Or maybe like that. Or maybe even like that. And these curves give us an idea of, okay, so how does it move? What kind of directions, delays will we have? And then we just follow it a bit. I also try to keep these 3 different and try to make sure that these appearing negative spaces are also different in size. Just a bit more. Also here I would push it even more because they're still a bit more similar, especially on this frame. Here, yeah, kind of works. We have the bigger, medium one, and small one. And here we simplify it into this big general structure. And that's how I'd probably do it. So that was a really good splash. And I'm glad to see animations. So hope to see more. And good luck with the animation. See you later.